In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an initial application using the Telerik CAB Enabling Kit, which is available at telerikcab.codeplex.com. I'm also going to show you how to use one of the basic workspaces provided with the TCEK, the RadDockableWorkspace. The first step we'll need to take is to create the initial SDSF project in Visual Studio. To do that, go to the File menu and select New Project and select Smart Client Development Application. And we'll name our demo application RadDockable Demo. Click OK, and then click Finish, and we'll wait for our project to generate. After our project is generated, we can close out several of these expanded projects because we really don't need to see all of this information at once. The next step we'll need to take is to add the TCEK project to our solution. And I've actually gone ahead and downloaded the TCEK and extracted it into this folder. And what we'll need to do is make a copy of the physical TCEK source code and paste it into the RadDockable Demo source folder for our application. And to add it to our project, just right-click the source folder, select Add, Existing Project, and browse to the project file for the TCEK and click Open. And now if you click the drop-down for the references on the TCEK, you'll see that it's missing a few key references. That's just because we removed it from another project and drug it here. So we'll just remove those and re-reference them. So we'll come to the lib folder provided with our generated project and select the three missing DLLs, and those are Composite UI WinForms, and Object Builder. And click OK, and we'll do a test build to see that it's working, and it compiled successfully. So now we'll need to reference this project from our generated project files, and there's three projects we'll need to reference it from, the first being Shell. So right-click Shell and select Add Reference, and click the Project tab and click Telerik CAB.WinForms and click OK. And we'll need to do that for infrastructure.library as well, and finally for infrastructure.layout. And now click Save, and we'll do another test build, and it built successfully. So now that we've added the TCEK to our application, we can integrate it into our Shell startup. And to do that, we'll need to take a look at the infrastructure.library project and at the smart client application.cs file. And what this file is basically the core place where basic services responsible for running CAB are loaded on the startup of your application. So if we scroll down and take a look at the class declaration, we can actually see that it's derived from form shell application. This is what we're going to change. We're going to change this to rad form shell application. And let's take a look at rad form shell application to see what it does. So open up the Telerik CAB WinForms project and take a look at the application folder. Inside you'll see rad form shell application and rad Windows forms application. If we open up rad form shell application and take a look at its class declaration, you'll see that it derives from rad Windows forms application. Well, that's really what we want to take a look at. So I'll open up that file, and if we scroll down here to the after shell created method, you'll see that it's actually adding the command adapters and the adapter factories for the different components included in the TCEK. So since we've changed our smart client application to derive from this instead, our application will now include all of the TCEK features when we build it. And in doing this, we've actually successfully integrated our application with the TCEK. That's really all there is to it. Let's continue by adding a RadDockableWorkspace as the main workspace to our application. So if we come up to infrastructure.layout and open up shell layout view.cs, we can see that it's actually using two deck workspaces as the main workspaces of our application. So let's delete those. Let's also delete the split container that they were in. And from the toolbox, let's drag a docking manager into the form and we'll dock it to fill. Let's also give it a more memorable name. Main docking manager. And click Save. Now right click the form and select View Code. If we scroll down to the shell layout view constructor, you'll see that it's actually using left workspace and right workspace as the workspace names assigned to the deck controls that we deleted. So let's comment that code out. And now what we'll need to do is expose the docking manager as a property so that we can access it through module.cs. So to do that, I'll just come down here to the bottom and add a property so that we can access it. So before we actually go into module.cs and create our RadDockableWorkspace, let's go ahead and make some changes to the main workspace name constants. I'm going to go ahead and update right workspace to be something more memorable. We'll call it main workspace. And I will also comment out left workspace since we're no longer using that. Now, let's open up module.cs and infrastructure.layout. This is where we're actually going to create the RadDockableWorkspace. So let's scroll down to the load method, and at the very bottom I'm going to paste in a quick code snippet and resolve it. And now let's take a look at what this is doing. So it creates a variable of RadDockableWorkspace type called dockWorkspace. And when it initializes that object, it's actually passing in the docking manager from our shell layout view and the shell layout. And this is our workspace. It's as easy as that. And once we've created that, we can just simply add it to the workspaces collection on the root work item, and it's ready to go. Now let's go ahead and run our project so we can take a look at the RadDockableWorkspace in action. Pretty bland. As you can see, we don't have anything displayed in it. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to set up some views so that we can display some information in the dockable workspace. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and add a module so that we can add some simple views. So I'll go ahead and right click on the source folder, go to Smart Client Factory, and select Add Business Module. I'm going to go ahead and name this module Hello Module. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And we don't need an interface, so I'm going to uncheck that box and click Finish. Now that Hello Module has been generated, let's add a few views to it. So what I'll do is right click the Views folder and go down to the Smart Client Factory option and select Add View. Let's call this view Hello View. And we'll create a folder for it and click Finish. Let's add another view. So we'll do the same thing as last time, except we'll call this one Goodbye View. And we'll create a folder for this view as well. And finally, we'll add one more view. And we'll call this one Picture View. And we'll create a folder for this view as well. So now we have our three views. Let's add some information to them so that we can see them display something in our RadDockableWorkspace when we add them to it. I'll go ahead and open the Goodbye view and let's add a label to it that says Goodbye. So I'll open the toolbox and we'll use a rad label to do that. I'll drag it up here to the top left corner. Let's change the text to say Goodbye. Let's make it a little bit bigger too, so we'll need to change the font for that. So let's make it as big as we can get. So there's our goodbye message. I'm going to go ahead and copy this label so that we can use it in our other views. So here's the hello view. So I'll open that one up and I'll just paste that label in here. And I'm going to rename it to say hello. And finally, for our last view, the picture view, I'm actually going to use a picture box so that we can display something a little bit different. So let's drag a picture box into the form and dock it so that it fills the space. Let's add an image to it. So I'll import a file I have readily available in my resources folder. And we'll just leave it like that. Click Save. And now we can close out of all of these designers. Now we'll need to add smart part info specific to the RadDockable Workspace. To do that, let's go ahead and start with the Goodbye view once again. Over here in the toolbox, if you scroll up to the top, you'll actually see that we have a docking smart part info. Go ahead and drag that out into your form. You'll see it get added to the collection box down below. Now if we come over here to the properties window for it, you'll see a number of properties specific to the RadDockable Workspace. These are the properties that are going to be used for the document that gets placed into the RadDockable Workspace when you add it to the workspace. So let's set a title on this. We'll call it Goodbye View. And we'll also need to set this to be a tabbed document. Click Save. Now if we right-click this and click View Code, you'll see that Get Smart Part Info method has been added automatically for us. And what this method does is just returns the smart part info so that it can be used in the generation process. There's a slight problem with this though, and this is SCSF's fault. This method is actually part of an interface, and what SCSF did is it failed to add it. So I'm going to go ahead and add that interface manually. It's this iSmartPartInfo provider interface. So now that I've added that, I can close these files and I'm done with them. And we'll come to the rest of our views and do pretty much the same thing with all of them. So on our Hello view, I'll go ahead and open the toolbox, drag a docking smart part info out to it, come over here to the properties window, and we'll call this one Hello View. We'll also set this to be a tabbed document. View the source code. See that it's added that method for us. Scroll back up to the top, add that interface, and now we'll do it for the picture view. So on the picture view, we'll come over here to the toolbox, drag out the docking smart part info, come over here to the properties window, and we'll set the title to picture view. We'll update tab document to true, and now finally we'll view the source code and implement the iSmartPartInfo provider interface. And now our views are all ready. So now what we want to do is add our views to the workspace. And to do that, we'll need to come into the modulecontroller.cs file. And once in this file, you need to scroll down to the add views method. Adding our view to the workspace is simply a case of following this example provided by SCSF, where it calls show view in workspace and uses the workspace name. I have a code snippet here that I'm going to paste in that actually does all of this for us. So as you can see here, it says show view in workspace generates our hello view. I pass in a name that it's going to use internally in case we want to reference later in one of the view collections. And I'm going to specify the main workspace as the workspace we will add this view to. And if you remember, we actually set the RadDockable Workspace to be called main workspace. So let's go ahead and test our application and see if it works. So, as you can see, we've successfully populated our RadDockable Workspace with the 3 views we created. And we can move them around just like any other docking control. That's really all there is to it. And that's pretty much it for this video. If you're interested in more information about the TCEK, I suggest checking out my blog at blogs.telerik.com/RobertShoemate. You could also check out the Codeplex website for the TCEK at telerikcab.codeplex.com.